Takes a minute. Okay, I think we're on there. I think we're live. Yeah, I think we're live. Let's see. Okay. Well, no, okay, in a few seconds. More options. Remove from stream. Spotlight participant. Okay, that's me. More option. Let's just do what we're doing right here. All right. Oh, I got a whole minute. Looks like the announcement hasn't been placed there yet. That is okay. All right, we're doing this. We are doing this today. Yeah. Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Stop all the procrastination. Okay. All right. Okay, let's see here. All right. Oh, it says I'm coming. Ah, okay, here we go. Oh, there it is. I am live. I didn't even realize I was live. Okay. All right, here we go. I thought I was waiting for the announcement, but I was spending all that time. I am live. Okay. I hadn't gone live in so long on this page that I didn't know how to do it anymore. All right. So, hey, everybody. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. What is going on, everyone? Everyone. So, I didn't even realize I was live until just a second ago. And then I looked at the thing. So, here we go. What's going on, everybody? So, I wanted to jump on because I am talking about podcasting and business and entrepreneurial stuff, right? And as it relates to podcasting, one of the most common questions that I get related to podcasts is how do I stay consistent? How do I stay consistent? How do I keep my content going? How do I get my content? Where do I get it from? All of those things. But the number one question that I have is how do I stay consistent? Right? And it's like with all of the other things I got going on in my life, like my personal stuff, I'm running a business, and now I want to launch a podcast. Now I want to start a podcast, and I got all of this stuff going on. How do I do all of that? Well, I totally get it, right? I totally get it because I'm in the same place. But today I'm going to talk about 5 things that you can do in order to stay consistent. So that's the question I want to answer to those of you who's watching right now. If you're watching the replay and you're wondering the same thing, like how do I stay consistent with launching after I start my podcast? How do I stay consistent? I'm glad you're here. So welcome to the Organizedpreneur Podcast. This is your go-to resource for all things entrepreneurial and podcasting. So all things entrepreneurial and podcasting strategies so that you can level up in your business and in your podcasting endeavors. My name is Aldrima Harper. I am the host of the Organizedpreneur Show, the Organizedpreneur Podcast. So I hope that you are ready. And if you're ready, then let's get into it. So today, again, I'm going to share 5 keys for starting and staying consistent in your podcasting endeavors. Go ahead and type in the chat. I see some of you are joining me live. Go ahead and type in the chat if that's one of your problems, one of your struggles. Okay. So let's start with number one. The first thing that you have to do when it comes to podcast, business, fitness endeavors, any endeavor, right? You have to decide. You have to decide. And that doesn't mean like, okay, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do this. No. You decide. You don't make choices. You just decide on one thing. You cut off all other options, as Myron Golden says, right? So you got to decide. You got to decide that you want to launch your podcast, that this is what you're going to do. Even before anything else, you got to make that decision. One of the things that I had to do was decide that I was going to go live on my pages that I had not gone live on probably in a few years, right? So you got to decide. So you decide that you are going to start your podcast and there's no other option, because guess what your brain is going to do? Your brain is going to say, well, you can start next time. You can start next week. Why not just plan it out and wait until everything is perfect? No. We don't do that. We're not going to do that. Okay. So you got to decide. The second thing you got to decide on, I'm still in step one. Step one is to make a decision, right? So step one, you want to make a decision on the fact that you're going to start a podcast, and then make a decision on the consistency and structure of your podcast, your episodes, your intro, the content, right? Whether you're going to do interviews or you're going to do a commentary on something, whether you're going to do guest interviews, you're going to be on other people's podcasts. It's the same thing. You got to decide on those things. And so you got to decide on the structure as well as the consistency. How often do I want to be on a guest podcast? How often do I want to interview others? How often do I want to release a new episode, right? So it starts with a decision, right? So making this type of decision is going to help your creation process be more efficient and more consistent because you've made a decision. Okay. So type yes in the, I'm looking at my device here and I want to make sure that type one if you can hear me okay, because I saw my device stop, but if not, that's okay. I'm going to keep going. So the first step is to make a decision on launching or starting the podcast, no other options, and then decision to what kind of structure you want. Okay. That is the first step. The second step, determine the formatting and the branding. So what type of episode you've already decided, but you got to determine the formatting and the branding, which means your episode titles, your descriptions, the intros, the outros, the logos, the colors, the fonts. All of that is definitely a part of the process, because what you want is you want people to recognize you or be prepared when you are to anticipate. That's the word I want. You want them to anticipate. I can't talk. Anticipate when you're going to be coming on, so that they can recognize your branding, your fonts, your logos, the intro music, all of those things. And this is determined when you are starting, before you even record one episode. This is something you got to determine first. A lot of people, when they come to me, they want to know, well, what kind of microphone do I need to have? What kind of, recording equipment. That is not as important as the steps that I am sharing with you right now, right? So you got to determine the formatting and the branding so that people recognize you. People recognize your brand. People recognize my brand as the organizedpreneur, right? This is what reinforces your identity, your brand identity. And when you are consistent in that, then it's like McDonald's or Starbucks. You know what to look for, right? So because you know the brand, you know the logo, you know the colors, right? So that creates consistency in you showing up. So you got to determine your formatting and your branding consistency. Okay. So all of those different elements are important when you are launching a podcast, just like when you launch a business. This is important. You got to maintain some uniformity, okay, in all of these elements. That's going to help you to stay consistent because you're not rethinking the whole thing every time. Like, okay, well, what was my font? What was my title? What was my, this or that? So you make sure that you determine those things, okay? That's number 2, determine the formatting and the branding. Number 3, define your show notes template. You need a template or a template so that you can have consistency in the sections of your podcast, right? When people go, they know exactly what to look for, where there's going to be timestamps. And some of you may not, if you're just starting your podcast, you may not understand exactly what I'm talking about right now, but you know that if you listen to podcasts, there are things that's consistent in every podcast, right? Their framework, right? Their structure, their branding, all of that, and the show notes, the template. So you want to create a template for your show notes so the show notes is another word for show notes is an episode summary, right? So you have your episode summary, your timestamps, your links, your resources, and all that type of stuff. Make sure there's consistency in that. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So create a standardized template, right? So that you have the same look and the same feel for every episode. Okay, so define the show note template. All right, number 3, develop a recording and publishing timeline. Like the thing that you want to do before, you don't do this. Well, this is number 3. Okay. This is number 3. So, but these are the 5 things that's going to help keep you consistent, right? So you want to make sure that you are realistic about your recording and publishing timeline. So like mine is every Tuesday, my podcast episodes are published every Tuesday at 7 a.m. regardless. Right. And so that is the way I want to show up every Tuesday. It's not live. So when you go to organizedpreneurpodcast.com, you'll see that the episodes are released every Tuesday. I want to be consistent, and that is realistic for me to schedule my podcast on Tuesday. Okay. So you want to be consistent in that. And again, it still goes back to decisions, right? Because I have already decided that that's when I want my podcast to be released. So I schedule them for Tuesday. I make sure the editing and the publishing and promoting, all of that is done. And by the time Tuesday roll around, it's on. Okay. So develop a recording and publishing timeline or schedule. Okay. That's a better way to put it. because you want to make sure that you are realistic in your scheduling and recording and editing and publishing and all of that. Now, maybe once a week is not, maybe that's not realistic for you, right? For some people do their podcast like once a month. I would recommend a minimum of once a week. Be consistent once a week. Okay. All right. Lastly, deploy batch recording. This is really, really important because you want to batch. And not everybody feels this way, but you want to batch your episodes so that you have episodes in the pipeline so that you're not up on that time for an episode to be released and you don't have anything, right? So you kind of give yourself a buffer, right? And so having that type of or scheduling or batching or whatever, 4, maybe 5 episodes. And listen, don't let that overwhelm you because an episode does not have to be long. An episode can be 5 minutes as long as you have something out there. A good way to do that is, let's just say you have a long topic, maybe it's an hour long. Well, if you break that up into 4 15-minute episodes, now you have 4 episodes in the pipeline. And if you are scheduling and publishing your podcast every week, you're set for a month, right? But you've done it all in one day. And the other thing that happens is that it helps to kind of create that rhythm, right? Because when you're in your flow, and you do your batch recordings and you are in your flow, it makes it easier to continue because you're already in that flow. You already have a good momentum, right? So you do want to pre-record your episodes. And I recommend at least 4 15-minute episodes. Okay. And so that way, that helps you to stay consistent. So let me just recap really, really quick before I get off. Number 1, decide on a structure. Decide on a podcast, but then decide on a structure. Number 2, determine the format and the branding so that it is consistent, so that people recognize your brand, all of the elements. Number 3, define the show notes template, right? Define the show note template. Your show notes are the summary, the timestamp, the links, the recording, the resources, all of those things. Have a template for that. Okay, so that it's the same look across all episodes. Develop a recording and publishing timeline. Be realistic about your schedule and your timeline for recording your episodes. Okay. And then deploy batch recording and have some in the pipeline. Okay. Have some in your pipeline so that you have a buffer, right? Everybody needs a buffer. Okay. So this will help you to maintain some consistency across your podcast episodes. And it's also a good idea to do that when you are, in your business. It's important, right? Because life is lifing, right? Things, you got personal things, you got business things. And if you're looking to launch your podcast, you're going to have podcast things. Because let me tell you, it's easy to start. And just like, let me say it this way. In fitness, it's easy to start, but it's hard to maintain. Okay? It's easy to start, but it's hard to maintain. And so you want to develop a routine and develop some momentum and be consistent, because consistency is really the key to having a loyal audience. It's the key to establishing your podcast, your and your authority through your podcasting, right? Because it's I remember, let me just share this before I get off, but I remember when I launched my podcast, it was actually 11 years ago. I launched my first podcast. Some of you on you may even remember, it was called Organize Your Enterprise. I did not have this kind of structure like what I'm giving you now. I had no idea about all of this other stuff that, that was involved in launching a podcast. And so I only have 12 episodes. And they were not, I just did it when I felt like it. And so there was no consistency. So those episodes are just sitting out there somewhere in podcast land. I've repurposed, some of them. But all I'm saying is that if you don't follow some type of framework and consistency in building a loyal audience and establishing your podcast as a reliable source for content, then people are just going to forget about you. That was one of the reasons why I decided to come back on my business pages to talk about podcasting. And so this helps you to stay organized in your podcasting endeavors. And the thing is this, podcasting can really provide a ton of opportunities to grow your business. Even if it's being a guest on podcasts, even you may say, I don't want to launch a podcast. I just want to be a guest. Well, yay. Just decide what it is you're going to do, because podcasting is a way to leverage your business if that's how you want to do it, right? So it does create a lot of opportunities. It's created other opportunities for me. And so it's a great way to leverage your business and by, using podcasting. So, but what I want you to remember is this, that the journey starts with one single step. And that step is deciding. Okay, it's deciding. So if you're looking to launch your podcast and you need a roadmap to start with, you can go to bit.ly/biz podcasting. And I will put that link in the comments below, because it provides you with a 5-step roadmap to launch your podcast. It goes a little bit deeper into what these things that I'm telling you right now. Okay, so make sure that you go and check that out. And what I'll be doing is I will be coming on a more regular basis, and that is going to be on Thursday. So every Thursday, I have decided that I will do a live recording right here on my business pages every Thursday. So I want you to stay tuned to that. Okay. All right. I want to close with a scripture. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, therefore, encourage one another and build one another up. So I hope this is encouraging you today. I hope this is building you up. I hope that by listening to today's live, that somehow you feel more empowered to do the things that you feel like God is calling you to do. And if launching a podcast is one of those things, then I'm here to help you. But you can start again by going to that link that will be in the show notes. I see my assistant is actually watching me. And so we're definitely going to make sure that you have all the information that you need. So thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep pursuing your entrepreneurial dreams, your podcasting dreams with passion and purpose. All right. Have an amazing day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.